many of you care about the planet and the environment? Please raise your hands. Well, that's almost everybody, so I think we don't need to close the doors. In 1987, something amazing happened. 46 nations came together under the same roof and made a decision that would change the fate of the planet and save the environment and millions of lives. They all signed what's called the Montreal Protocol. And under this agreement, they all decided to reduce their impact on the environment and stop polluting the atmosphere with chemicals that destroy the ozone layer. Now, this was a very important decision because the ozone layer protects us against the harmful radiation of the sun. And when the ozone layer becomes thinner and thinner, this leads to devastating effects because more solar radiation enters Earth's surface, and then we have higher rates of skin cancer. It also reduces the efficiency of plant growth, and it even affects sensitive creatures that are present underwater, marine life. And this was a very important decision that was made around 3 decades ago. This year, we learned that the ozone layer is healing. It is recovering. It's getting back to normal. And it will continue to protect us against solar radiation. This was by far the best news we have learned this year so far. But the real question is, how do you bring all these nations together? So far, there are around 200 nations that have signed this treaty. So more and more nations continue to join, and now we have around 200 nations. So what does it take to really bring all these nations together? Well, the answer is science. In 1970s, scientists discovered that the ozone layer was depleting, but they were not sure about that. So they needed a proof. They conducted extensive research, and they confirmed by 1980s that the ozone layer was actually depleting and that we needed to take a stand. And that was the reason the Montreal Protocol was born. Now, if science wasn't involved, probably nobody would care. The ozone layer would continue to be destroyed by these chemicals, and we would all suffer the consequences. Science is not only a way for us to get to know about the universe, about ourselves, our bodies, biology, chemistry, and physics. It's not just a way to create gadgets and technologies that are important and make our lives easier. It's also a way to bring people together. And this is the best example. When science or scientists and decision makers come together and we base our decisions on science, we can accomplish great things. Now imagine if we replicate this exact model, we could solve many other problems. Climate change, plastic trash, and the mass extinction of other animal species. In December 2015, around 200 nations signed what's called the Paris Climate Agreement. You probably have heard a lot about it in the news. And under this agreement, they decided that they would also take a stand against climate change. They would reduce the emission of carbon dioxide, which is harming the environment. And many of them are already taking some decisions. These countries have decided to ban cars that run on fossil fuels. And this is a very good initiative. It's very encouraging. Although the Paris Climate Agreement is just 2 years old, almost, in just a few decades, we might see positive results, just like we saw with the ozone layer. And in fact, nations are not only banning fossil-based cars, but they're also switching completely to renewable energy. This was one of the commitments that they have made thanks to the Paris Climate Agreement. And what led to the birth of Paris Climate Agreement? Science. If we didn't continue to study the atmosphere, our impact on the environment, we wouldn't have learned and nothing would have been done. But it's all thanks to the power of science. The second problem that we could solve if we follow the same protocol is plastic trash. By 2050, it's expected that the world's oceans will have more plastic than fish. That's devastating. Since the 1950s, we have produced 9 billion tons of plastic, and 91% of that is not recycled. So where does it go? It goes to landfills, and it also goes to the oceans, where it impacts marine life, coral reef, and also enters into our food chain. Now remember, we don't want to destroy coral reef because marine plants are responsible for 81% of our oxygen. So if we destroy them by plastic, and plastic has been shown to destroy marine life, then we're going to lose a very important source of oxygen. And if that wasn't devastating enough, recent studies have shown that salt, which we eat, contains microplastic, which enters into your central nervous system and causes devastating damage. So we're not only contaminating the environment and putting trash into the food chain of other creatures, we're also eating our garbage. And that's why we have to find a way through a Montreal Protocol-like scenario where we can solve this problem. In 2017, once again, all the nations took a decision and they decided to ban plastic at some point. One thing that I need to mention is that 1 million seabirds and 100,000 marine animals are affected by plastic trash. Now, these animals don't speak for themselves. So scientists are there to continue to study, do the statistics, we learn, and these statistics are very important to influence decision making. And when we make science-based decisions, we can definitely win. So many countries under the United Nations decided in 2017 that they would also do something about plastic trash. So we are heading towards the right direction. It's still too early to say, but maybe just like fixing the ozone layer, in just a few short years, we will be completely eliminating the problem of plastic trash from the ocean. But we might not need to be optimistic, because for a single plastic bag, it would take 1,000 years, for it to decompose. So it's going to take a long time. Science is also providing solutions. Biodegradable plastic is already available, but it's expensive. Scientists are working on new ways to make it cheaper. Scientists are also creating new enzymes that can eat plastic a lot faster. So as you can see, when we embrace science, we don't only get to know about the source of the problem, it also offers us solutions, effective solutions. The third problem that we can fix by embracing science-based decision-making is the mass extinction of other animal species. We are now, according to scientists, entering the 6th mass extinction. So far, 5 happened on the planet, and now we are responsible for causing the 6th one. We are changing the environment faster than these animals can adapt. Urbanization, deforestation. We are expanding our presence at the expense of these poor creatures, and it's our responsibility to save them. So imagine if we had a scenario like the Montreal Protocol, and in just few years, maybe we could restore and recover the biodiversity that we have destroyed in the past years. What we could do to save animals is ban trophy hunting. Did you know that some governments give you a permit so you can go out and hunt animals? And these are animals that are actually endangered. And that's a problem. Imagine if we have a Montreal Protocol, but only for animals, we could force these nations to stop doing something like that. We could also protect the environment of these animals, and I believe we are already doing something about that. The agreement that was done for climate change and plastic trash, these are encouraging steps to protect the natural habitats of these animals. Scientists are now also creating a DNA bank. You take the sequence of the animal, the DNA sequence, and you store it in a bank. It's a digital sequence, so that in the future, you can clone that animal. It's great, but this should be our last resort. And it's also important to educate people about the importance of keeping a balanced ecosystem and the importance of maintaining a healthy planet, not just for us, but also for other creatures, because this planet does not only belong to us, it belongs to all creatures. So as you can see, there are many benefits for making decisions on the basis of science. First, science helps us identify the core source of the problem. And then it provides us with solutions. And then, when we implement these solutions, we get effective results. And this is why we should all embrace science-based decisions in all our aspects of life. So here we have the perfect example for solving many of our problems. The Montreal Protocol, the ozone layer is healing. It's getting thicker and thicker, protecting us against harmful radiation. Very encouraging. But we need to adopt the same for other problems that we have. And it's not just about global science-based decision-making. You, as an individual, you should also not make decisions until you have learned everything. Learn the science behind everything. Vaccines, genetically modified food, climate change. Many people make a stand without even learning. It's a decision. And your decision as an individual is part of a decision of a community, and it affects the globe. So we all have to embrace science-based decision-making if we really want to make a difference in our world and our environment and our personal lives. Thank you.